Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Now I'm going to bump this item forward, so got quite a bit of attention on a recent piece of content that I did where we looked at 5 just EDC items that I can't live without, and one of them was a watch. I can't leave the house with a watch, even so much so that I carry a spare watch in my glove box just in case, because it really does grind my gears leaving the house without a watch. So one of the watches that we showed in there was the Withings Scanwatch, so I thought I'd bump that forward. It seemed like you guys would like to have a little bit more of a look at this. I've got to say, I do genuinely love this watch. It's the perfect balance for me between a nice dress watch and has some smart and health kind of functions on there. So what I'll do is we'll take a closer look at this, and I'll turn the camera around so that we can do that. But whilst I'm doing that, if at any point during this piece of content, even probably laughing at me trying to get some words wrong, then please feel free to hit the like and subscribe. That would be really appreciated, and I genuinely do mean that would be really appreciated. I'd like to take this time as well to say thank you. It means a lot to my channel. But let's turn the camera around to take a closer look at the Withings Scanwatch. Okay, so here we have the watch. I thought what I'd do quickly is just show you what's inside the box. The box that comes nice and simple, but has that real kind of iPhone look and feel to it, which really does give the impression that this is it's a high value item. And I'll say it gives you the impression because it genuinely is a nice high value item. Inside you get this other smaller brown box, and then in here just gives you a nice little bit about taking on the journey to better health and yakety yak. And then you get this little felt. Now I did do an unboxings and first impressions video to this, so I'll leave a link in up here wherever it is. But it comes in this, which is a really nice felt case. It fits in there, and then behind, which I've actually took out here, you get the charger that comes with this as well. It's a proprietary charger, so you need to have one of these. If it is that you lose one of these, you can pick one of these up. I think they're about £20 to get a new one, which is quite a bit, but I dare say if you look on eBay there are cheaper versions of them which will allow your watch to explode the first time you attach it on there. So that is what you get in the box. Now all of that to one side so that we can take a closer look at the watch itself. So here we have the Scanwatch itself, and as you usually do, we'll go through some measurements, some materials, and then we'll have a look at some of the features. There are 2 versions of this one. So the version that I have here, this is the 42mm face. There is also a 38mm face, which would be roughly the same size as this Timex Scout watch. I think this is 37mm, but just to give you a difference, it's not really much difference between the two. So this is the 42mm there, and then when you get this one, then there are 2 versions of this. You can either have the one like I have, which has this really nice plain and simple stylish black face, or you can have one that has a white face, and everything is a negative of what you'd see here. So all of the indices, they are in black. It has a black Withings, and that it's white on there as well. The lug width on these are 20mm lugs. Now the strap that comes with these are all interchangeable straps. The straps that I've had on here are incredibly nice. I do like a strap to be a little bit more robust, but then saying that, I mean these aren't particularly flimsy straps. So I have been using these straps that I got from Archer Straps, who are a US company out of California, and these are really nice. They fit perfectly onto these, as these are quick release straps as well. But we'll have a little bit more at the strap as we go through this. As far as weight is concerned, this comes in at 89 grams, which I think for a watch like this, I think is actually quite good. On the face of this, you would assume that this is just a normal chronograph style timepiece. It has this additional display down here with a hand on there, but then also has a second display here at the top, which doesn't really have anything on there until you press the crown here on the side, which, you know, again, we'll have a look at through those. Going around the watch, super simple, very handsome, and I definitely do mean handsome when I talk about this watch. It's one of those watches that when I put it on, it made me feel very adulty. Is that a word? It is a word. I've just invented it. It made me feel adulty. It makes a lot of the other style watches. I know certainly here is my Casio GAB 2100, which again, you know, I really like this watch. Maybe the closest in styling to this, but generally I go for a nice rugged outdoor style watch. So having a watch like this is it's a bit of a, I won't say shock to the system, but it's just against the normal style of watch that I'd go for, although in a strange way I do also like these classic field style watches, so it's not too far from that. Last measurement on here is the thickness of this, and it comes in at 13.7 millimeters. Now hopefully there, without too much reflection of my camera above, you get to see a closer look at the face. Now the face, rather than having numbered indices on there, so all of the hour indices have a larger point on there, and then you can see each of the minutes in between, and then around the edge you can see you've got 5, 10, 15 going through 5-minute intervals all the way up to 60 at the top. The hands, very, very simple. Rather than being sword or any other style, they just have a very long, slim profile to them, and each of these also does have some lume on there as well. Now the indices don't have any lume on there, whereas the hands do. It's a reasonably good lume. If you shine a light on it, it will stay light for quite some time. It's not up there with some of those really nice kind of military style watches with the bright lume on there, but it does a very good job. And I will say, because even though with a black face like this, it's also reasonably easy to be able to tell the time in the dark. And if you're in a situation where you really can't tell the time in the dark, then you can press the crown, which again, you know, we will have a look at in a bit. The whole watch face is made from stainless steel, which is nice to see. I think with the quality that you get from this watch, rather than using a base material that you tend to get with others and then it's coated, this is a fully stainless steel timepiece. And then to add to that, which this is my first sapphire crystal display watch. Yeah, I know you're thinking, wow, that's weird. I'd have thought you'd have millions. No, seriously. So this is my first sapphire crystal display. If you're new to sapphire crystal displays, generally on a lot of watches you get these mineral crystals, which do a very good job of, you know, keeping scratches away. However, sapphire crystal displays, although they're not actually sapphires, they're fabricated in such a way that it creates one single crystal rather than many extra crystals, which adds to how tough this is. And these really are tough. You really don't need to worry about this scratching on things. Companies like Rolex, Omega, you know, all of the big companies have been using sapphire crystal glasses on these, and it just shows how tough they are. It is slightly domed. If I put that at an angle there, hopefully you can see that it's slightly domed, which I think just really it's Withings showing off. You know, we've got a sapphire crystal display on this, we're going to dome this bad boy, mainly because you're not going to be able to scratch this, or at least you really would have to beat this a lot in order to scratch it. On the back here you can see the sensors. So you have your optical heart rate sensor. The optical heart rate sensor on this, we will have a look a little bit more into these. And then on the outside of this here, there is also a secondary unit. So this exterior band here, this is what's used for part of the defib, atrial defibrillation. I always forget the words. So that's one of the diodes or electrodes that helps to track that. The second one is actually here on the front, although this looks like a slight bezel. This is also an electrode here on the front, because one of the measurements that you have to do, you keep it on your wrist and you put it put your finger over there, so that you have the positive and the negative on the front here, so that you can then check certain measurements. Now, I did mention the strap. Now, the strap on this is genuinely a really nice strap. I think it suits the tone and the feel of the watch. Although hopefully you can pick this up in the camera, in the light here. It is a rubbery style strap. There is quite a lot of give in this, so if you did want to use this for outdoor activities or have it tighter on your wrist, if your wrist swells through the day, it has got a little bit of give in there. When it's on, it actually looks and feels similar to a leather strap, and I think that's because they've used this lighter, more malleable rubber strap to it. And then at the end, which it's been a while since I've seen one of these, but then at the end you have this really, really nice double clasp on there with the Withings logo on it too. Okay, so now I have alluded to this several times, but here on the side, on the crown, this is similar to a lot of other smartwatches. This is how you go through the different functions of the watch. Even setting the hands isn't done through this. You have to do that through the watch. But when you push down on it, the hands will reset, and then you'll be able to see the time that's on there. So as I mentioned, if you're in an incredibly dark room and you really just don't have enough light to be able to see the time, then you can press on the side and it'll give you a quick idea of what the time is and also the date as well. But once you're in this mode, and hopefully you'll notice as well, so it moves the hands out of the way. Now, if it was, say, 7:25, the hands wouldn't move because there's no way that the hands are in the way of this screen. Whereas at the moment, as it's 1:30, then the hour hand is just ever so slightly in the way, so it does just kick them out just in case. But then to get through the different settings, you use the crown here to be able to scroll through those. So the first one that you can see is the clock. You can press it in again, and then you can go through your alarms, a stopwatch, or a timer. I've got to say the stopwatch is a bit tricky to use because you have to do like a long press to stop, so it's not as accurate as you'd like it to be. But then there's also an option there to go back. Then there are workouts, and you can also adjust all of these. There are some features that I've just simply took out of here. Let's go back because I timed out. So you can go in again. You've got run, swim, and so on. You can choose those in the actual app. There is a shortcut, so you can do a long press on here, and you can decide what you want to do. I had mine so that a long press went into my workout and run, but I did find every so often that I kind of have this so that my wrist was turned, and you will find that you get accidental turn-ons there. So I found that it was saying, oh, let's go for a run, when I wasn't really going for a run, so I'd simply turn that off. It's not difficult to do. Then you've got your heart rate. There is also your steps, which it will track through the day for you. How many miles you've done, also elevation if you've been up and down some stairs, and then there is also an ECG on this, which is an electrocardiogram, which we'll have a look as well in a moment. And then you get to the bottom, and then you can go into settings. Now, this is if there was possibly one thing that I would change, and Withings, if you're watching this, then that would be great. I'd like to take the battery indicator out of the settings and put it so that it's just in that normal scroll through menu, maybe just after the time. I think that'd be great, just in case you wanted to see a quick how much battery you've got left. It's not particularly difficult if you wanted to. I've set mine so that I just scroll back, click on settings, and it's there. But I think it would be great if it was all part or integrated into that main menu at the beginning. But then there's other things on here. You can have do not disturb. You can have your quick look. So quick look, well, when it's on your wrist, you can do that thing where you move your watch around and it will turn on. And then you can also readjust the hands if needs be. But it's actually easier to do that through the app. Now, one thing that I did mention in here is it does have an ECG, so I'm just going to put this on my wrist off camera. So outside of this whole YouTube shenanigans, I actually work in the medical communications industry. Sorry, that's my dogs just trip-trapping on the floor around me. So I've been able to pass this around some of the doctors and some of the faculty that I work with for their impressions on it. One of the things that Withings says as part of the whole spiel for this is, it's medical grade equipment, medical grade quality. Certainly what I find working in medcoms is you have to take that with a little bit of pinch of salt. Don't get me wrong, this is an incredibly accurate and fine watch, and the quality of the goods that are in here certainly are excellent. But strictly speaking, as long as it just passes the bare minimum, then you can call that medical grade. But again, I mean that sounds like I'm throwing some sort of shade on Withings, and I certainly aren't, because this does a very good job. But yeah, it's just something to be said. So to go into the ECG, so what you can do with the ECG there is there to make sure that your heart is working properly. It's there to make sure that the upper and the lower parts of your heart are in sync and are in time with each other. If they're not, that can show AFib, which you tend to see in, he's gone into AFib, or there's issues with your heart. So you can go into ECG. Now, I have had some mixed things with this. So what you do is, now as I mentioned, there is an electrode on the back, and then there is an electrode here. So when you have it on, you put it on, you just have to have one finger on there. One finger on there, and then hopefully you'll see that that's counting down. So I'm just going to stop talking for 26 seconds. Well, that's not good. Signs of AFib. Right, let's try that again, shall we? It's got my heart rate on there. I mean, I can't lie, I do suffer from white coat syndrome. So, here is a prime example of white coat syndrome. Let's try it again. I did it earlier and it said normal. There you go. So it's come back now and it's saying inconclusive, which is another issue that I'd heard earlier. So, I mean, as a live play test, let's keep going until it says normal. There you go. Now it's telling me that it's normal. So this example here, I mean, this is a perfect example, mainly because you put a camera and you try and record something, and it just likes to be a knob. I've done this maybe 20 times. I've had 2 times when it's come back as inconclusive, and I've had, that was the first time that it said that I'm in AFib, which really I should be calling the doctor now, but I have my hand on my heart and I certainly know that I don't have any issues there. So I think this is probably a really good example just to show you how sometimes it works. Now, as I say though, in the entire time that I've had this, I've never had AFib, and I say about 20 times, and it's come back a couple of times as inconclusive. Let's just clean that screen off. But as I mentioned, so it works on an electrode here, which is the reason why you need to have your finger on there. It will send the pulse around your body. I think it is the same as a lead 1 style ECG. There are lots of different types of ECG machines, but a lead 1 is the one that will do it in this such a way. Then on the rear, you have your optical heart rate sensor. Now, the optical heart rate sensor on this, I think, is another. It's another good one on here. I've tested this against the Garmin version. I've tested this against 2 Garmin versions. I've tested also this against the T-Rex, the Amazfit T-Rex, and it's better than the T-Rex, and it's slightly better than the other one. What did I say? The Garmin one as well. Sorry, I'm a bit flustered because, I wasn't expecting it to say AFib, but I certainly know that I'm not in any trouble at the moment. But the sensor on the back of here again is another high quality sensor. So a lot of these sort of things you get when you go into the hospital, where you put it onto your finger. You can have it on your finger, on your wrist, on your earlobe as well. I just touched my earlobe off camera. I don't know why I did that. But the way in which they use, I think it's called, what's it called now? It's called transit octometry, or it's pulse octometry. But whereas this one, so this use is as reflective or retractive. So you see these often where you get a certain frequency of light that comes through here, and then that will then bounce back from either oxygenated blood cells or non-oxygenated blood cells, and it will be able to get a reading from that to tell you about one. It will be able to tell you about your blood oxygen levels, your CO2. SpO2 max, all that sort of stuff, and it will also be able to tell you about your heart rate as well. There is also sleep tracking on here, which we'll have a look at through the app. But how the sleep tracking works is it works through a number of different things. It will also measure your pulse. It will measure, because there is an accelerometer in here, it will measure how much you're moving, and to make sure that it can work out how well you're sleeping. But if you suffer from things like sleep apnea, there is settings in here so that it can check the oxygen levels in your blood, and it can give you readings from that as well. Now, a lot of this is all done through the app, so let's just grab my mobile phone. So here is my mobile phone and the app. Now, on the main screen, let's put that next to it so it looks nice. On the main screen here, it gives you really all of your kind of information about your day-to-day. So you can see steps, ECG. You can see that there was actually a detected defib on there, which I think is quite funny. And then you've got some other activities as well as sleeps on here as well. You can click on any of these and it'll be able to give you some more information. So I mean, I've been in my office today, not really walking around a lot, whereas on Sunday morning I went for a run. Now, to be able to start it on here, if you do go for a run, is very simple. But I've found that it's also very good at picking up activities that other watches haven't done. So here, when I went for a walk in the afternoon, I didn't say I'm going for a walk, turn this on. It noticed that I was doing some activity, guessed that I was doing a walk, and said, right, okay, let's start an activity for this as well. There are a few other occasions here. So Friday, I was at the gym at that point, but here, so on Wednesday, I went to, I go for a run in the morning, and then Wednesday evening, I'll go to the gym. And again, it's noticed that I'm doing something that is an activity. It's chosen walking on this, but I do quite a lot of skipping and I suppose jump rope, some of you guys would call it. So it's noticed and it's recognized that. There on Sunday I took it off. But yeah, so so there on Wednesday I went for a run, and then in the evening I didn't set it to start, but it recognized that I was doing some activity and it turned on. Here's some information about the ECG that just happened. There's the defib one. Hopefully, can we flick through the dates on this month? I mean, there you go. I mean, I've said it's just that time that it's ever happened. And then you have your sleep on here. Now, the sleep does, I'd say, a good job of tracking your sleep. I'm not a particularly good sleeper. In fact, hopefully you can see here. So, I mean, that was a reasonably good night, but I went to bed at midnight, got up at 8, went to bed, or at least fell asleep. Some mornings, 2 o'clock in the morning, got up at 7. I don't necessarily have a lot of deep sleep. One of the differences with this app is that it doesn't recognize REM sleep. So REM, at some point, it will decide whether that is light sleep or whether that is deep sleep, which will knock some of those off as REMs. It's the most important type of sleep that we can get. So it just kind of decides itself which one of those sleeps REM falls into. But again, you get some more information here. You can see it. It's like you're not getting very good sleep, but I really don't know what to do about that, mainly because I've just never slept very well. Hopefully you can see here that I wake up quite a bit during the night as well. It almost seems as though Withings know that there is a whole Withings infrastructure of different health style apps that they think, maybe you should try one of these, because they do also have a nighttime sensor or sleeping sensor that you can put underneath your bed, which is kind of cool. But then also, if you want to go into the device, into notifications, it will give you more information about which apps you want to have enabled to have your notifications. Or then if you go into settings, all of your things in here as far as setting the time, setting long presses, your screen, whether you want to have that quick on and off, you can set that in here as well. And then how I mentioned some of the other things in here. So at the moment, I have breathing, I have SpO2, and I have calories turned off. But if you wanted to have different faces within this small display there, then you can set them all through this app as well. You can decide which hand it's on. You can decide whether you want to have some of the settings on and off so that they're on all of the day. Now I do say, so this does have a 30-day battery. However, you do need to take that with a pinch of salt. A lot of this I have turned off, mainly because I just don't want lots of notifications. I really don't mind that the continuous heart rate is only every, say, 5 or 10 minutes. I certainly don't mind that. When I'm doing an activity, it's fine that it just does it as part of that activity. Now, as far as activities are concerned, if I go into my timeline, I find that run that we were looking at on Sunday, whereas that's yesterday. So here is the run that I did on Sunday. So you can see the duration of the run, you can see approximately how many miles it was and how many calories that I burnt on that day. Now, I will have to say that the information that you get as far as activities is concerned, it's definitely not as detailed as you would get with a Garmin or with some other really kind of sporty sports watch. It gives you some information about your heart rate, gives you some more information about those peak heart rate zones to tell you where you are. However, that's kind of it. Now, you can take your phone with you. If you take your phone with you, it will then also track your GPS, but I don't like to take a phone with me. That's why I just run with my watch. So some of that is missed off. However, considering that you're just running with the watch and it just uses the accelerometer in there, it does get very close. And I'd say, depending on your runs, some mornings I do a 6k run, and it's usually, say, 500 or 600 meters out. This was an 8 or 9k run, and it was probably roughly the same, probably 600 or 700 meters out, which it just amazes me that they can get that just from your cadence and all of that other stuff. But on the cadence side, you know, there's nothing in here that you can do to kind of do a deeper dive into that sort of detailed information. It just simply isn't on here. Now, there's definitely something that I forgot to mention whilst we were having a closer look at that, and that is some of the irregularities between the sleeping component. Not necessarily an irregularity, but just how much sleep you need to take part in before it kind of starts to log that. Really, you need to get a good 3 or 4 hours sleep before it starts. Well, it's already been tracking your sleep, but it's whether or not it records that to then be able to put into the app. I like a doze every now and again. If on a Sunday afternoon I decide to take a couple of hours nap, there's been a few of those naps that haven't really been recognised that I've took during the day, but the ones in the evening, when I go to bed at midnight, it generally tends to know that I've gone to bed at midnight, and on the nights that I've gone to bed earlier, it generally tends to know that I've gone to bed on those nights as well. But if you're after it for those little kind of snoozes during the day, it doesn't have a good record with that. But from talking to some of you guys in some of the comments on previous videos, I know that you've experienced something similar as well. So I'd like to hear it down in the comments, you know, if you've had some issues with it. Now, I hate really to have gone through what we've looked at earlier to that, because I don't want to finish on a low point. Because at this point, you probably were wondering whether or not this watch is for you. I think it does have some shortcomings, but for me, as a whole package, this is genuinely within my top 5 watches. And the main reason for that is just because of, how do I put it right? So, I mean, I like watches. I mean, I genuinely love watches. I have an obsession with them. But I think for me, there's a subtle balance in smartwatches. You can have a smartwatch, and I'm not shedding any sort of shade on something like the Apple Watch, but it's all encompassing. It just wants to be in your life. It wants to tell you everything. It's just always there. And I think I enjoy the fact that if I take my phone out of my pocket and leave it at home, I can go out without my phone. And I kind of almost want similar with a smartwatch as well. I can have all of my emails, phone calls, text messages, calendar, all of that come through to this, and it does a very good job of being able to show you those and being able to interact with them. But for me, I can pare a lot of that back, still have some of the health benefits with the tracking, with the ECG, which, apparently thinks that I'm quite ill at the moment, but, that was quite funny. But I can get all of that in a watch that still looks like a watch that I'd be happy to go into the studio with, that I wouldn't take off if I was going to a wedding or something like that, because I have other rugged outdoor style watches that when I go to something nice, I get all suited and booted, I've got a whistle and flute on, that I don't want to wear a G-Shock 2. Whereas with this, I kind of get the best of both worlds. Now, it definitely doesn't have that rugged outdoor style look and feel to it, but it has some of those credentials in the fact that it's stainless steel, it's got that nice sapphire crystal display on the front. This can take probably just as much as... No, I'm going to take that back. I can't say that this will take just as much as a kicking as a G-Shock, but, it's got higher quality materials in this. So if you are using this whilst outdoors, you put in a more of a rugged strap on there, then it will certainly last you a long time. I'm generally really impressed with this, and this is... I was going to say, so this is a watch that will stay on my wrist. You'll probably see this a lot more in future content, mainly, as I say, because it does so much, but still has that nice, handsome, kind of elegant dress watch appeal to it. Haven't mentioned the price on these, so I think when I picked this up, I think it was either $250. I'm not too sure. I'll see if I can find the price below. But I picked this up through Amazon, and with Amazon doing that whole buy now and pay over 5 increments, it certainly made it was a lot easier. This wasn't sent to me free of charge. It made it a lot easier to do that. I think that's actually quite good when you purchase through Amazon. Actually, there are some affiliate links below if you want to check this out. But that wasn't a plug for Amazon. I certainly wasn't sent this watch free of charge. Now I'll leave some of those links below. I'll also leave some of Withings links below as well, so that you can see a little bit more from those, maybe on social media. I'll add some of my social media links below as well. But for now, as always, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC.